Welcome to the first episode of this podcast. I think it will be called Nonconformity or something along the lines of that. I wanted to do this for quite a while now, but I've never really gotten down to it. Podcasting is something I've always been intrigued by. I do listen to podcasts quite often. So it's something I've wanted to do for quite a while now. I've made attempts to start podcasts in the past. I think in 2021, I started this thing called YouTuber Talk, which eventually flopped. The rationale behind that series was good. I wanted to spotlight, I think, smaller creators who are trying to make it big on YouTube and on social media in general. So that was the aim of that podcast. But if essentially it flopped, because I didn't have the resources and the capabilities, I think, to keep that series running. So I've always thought that the barrier to entry for podcasting is quite high. But now that I think of it again, right? Because, I mean, obviously you need resources and all that. But now that I'm thinking of it again, it's actually quite easy to break into the podcasting space because right now there's a bunch of random people just talking about anything and everything on their podcast. You just need a phone essentially and then a clip-on lavalier mic essentially. So I wouldn't say the barrier to entry is very high. Yeah, and then I think along the way I've made some attempts to start my own mini podcast. I think in 2022, 2023 I launched this sort of mini podcast. I wouldn't call it a podcast, it's more like a mini talk show, which I eventually didn't follow through with also. So now this is my first ever attempt at podcasting, so forgive me if I'm not exactly very good at this format yet. But I have a lot of guests who I kind of want to invite, who I have in mind. So for today's episode, or rather this whole podcast, to kind of preface the entirety of this series, this podcast will focus on unorthodox or unconventional individuals. Like what I always do, I like to shine the light on some alternative perspectives, or rather unconventional perspectives. So that's what I aim to kind of do through this series, because I feel like although a lot of people do talking head videos on YouTube, on social media, everyone has sort of the same opinions about everything. So I wanted to do this to kind of share opinions, like what I always do on TikTok and on YouTube, but this is just longer form. Right. So that's kind of my rationale. Because a lot of the podcasts which I listen to are they shine the spotlight on successful individuals, high caliber individuals. There's nothing wrong with that. I acknowledge that a lot of us individuals enjoy listening to advice from some set people, but I feel like a lot of those podcasts lack the relatability. So the aim of this podcast is to be able to relate with the masses, because I'm just like any one of you, I'm a regular individual. You too, as well. I know that sounds cliche, but I want to be able to relate with the masses essentially. I think that's sort of enough yapping. I'm going to get into the episode proper. We're going to yap a lot in this episode. So, yeah, I kind of want to introduce the guest I have on today. So I have Alven here. Not sure if you remember him. I think you were in one of my videos before, right?
Yeah.
The Tech Across Singapore one,
Tech Across Singapore,
which is my most popular video by far. In fact, you were the one who came up with the idea, right?
Yeah, I was the one. I was like, I met Nicholas and I was like, hey, I feel like you could really push your boundaries and maybe try something different. So I suggested the tech idea.
I'm glad I actually listened to him because it actually worked out in my favor. It worked out really well. Basically, I was inspired by this European travel game show thing, and then you wanted to bring it to Singapore, localize it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Should film another episode soon in the near future.
Maybe, if you
What do you
have time.
think? Yeah, that's that. Maybe you want to introduce a bit more of yourself.
Okay, so how I know Nicholas is that I knew him when, okay, funny story.
Yeah, it's a very funny story.
Is that we were on the same train. Like,
Yeah.
Apparently, like both of us are like a bit of a train fan.
Yeah.
We enjoy trains. So one day when we were on this thing called the Northeast Line, and on that day somehow there was like a new train model that was debuting on service. So that's where we met. I went there, and that's why I started talking to him about trains and stuff. Then we started discussing the idea about his YouTube channel and the tech thing. But mainly I know him because through a mutual friend. My friend is already friends with him, and that's how I get to know him, because if my friend wasn't friends with him, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be talking to Nicholas in the first place.
Alright, and initially I wanted to dive a little bit into our hobbies, like as train fans. But I think I'll leave that to another episode. We know a lot of people who are invested in the public transportation network, so maybe in the future I can invite some of those people. But I think today we'll want to kind of lay out the foundation for this series, and that's kind of the purpose of this episode. Yeah, I think other than trains, we share a lot of the same hobbies as well. Like
yeah.
we both like running for the most part. We gym a lot. In fact, we were gymming last week, and then I brought up this idea of starting a podcast to him. And then 1 week later, here we are. I think it's exactly 1 week ago. So yeah, we enjoy a lot of the same activities, and I think some of the topics which we'll discuss today will be relevant to him. And then from there, hopefully, you'll be able to resonate with the listeners as well. Yeah, so that's just a little backstory of how we met. Maybe I want to get into like the episode proper right now. So I want to talk a lot about some of the issues, because this is like a precursor of what this series is going to look like in the future. I want to kind of talk about some of the issues which us youth often face in 2026, or in the 21st century in general. So I want to throw the question to you. It's a very broad question, so take your time to kind of dissect it, and then from there we'll dive into some of the main talking points which we have discussed previously. What is like one of the biggest problem or issue you face as a youth in 2026? Or rather, what are some issues which you think that your peers or other youth like us face, which doesn't get talked about very often?
I feel like the main issue right now that we are going through is like we are going through a lot of depression and anxiety. We are suffering from high stress levels. Like I read on like somewhere on the news that like 1 in 3 youths are now facing issues of stress, depression, anxiety, all sorts of mental issues. This is from like IMH, and they decide to seek help. So yeah, the statistic is there. But then there's also like another bunch of people who don't seek help at all. So the true the true figure that they reported might actually be lower. So it may not be a 1 in 3, unfortunately, it might be a 1 in 2.
Yeah. So what do you think, are some of the causes of what you've just mentioned, I think there are quite a couple. I have my own insights or my own opinions on this rather, but I'll let you share your opinions first, and then after that I'll get into mine then.
Alright.
Yeah.
I think right, for let's say Singapore, let's put it in a Singapore context.
Yes.
Okay, so in Singapore, we all know that we have like very high stakes exams.
Mm.
Yeah, very high stakes exams such as like PSLE, O level, A level. It's very stressful. It's really insane, like actually insane. I went through it. I think Nicholas definitely went
Yeah.
through it. Just I don't know.
Yeah, you went through all three, right? PSLE. He took A levels, so he came from JC.
Yeah, I took it.
How was it though for you?
It was like a marathon. It was really a marathon. Like I felt like, okay, first year it was like still have chance to breathe, but when the second year hits, you're like, oh, it's reality. You have to like really buck up and get to the very end. Like you need to push through to the very end, because you're competing with like the whole Singapore. So it's like really a rat race at this point.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like I know quite a few people who went the A level route and then they kind of got burned out after it. They kind of some of them even sort of fell into depression and anxiety and all that. So like I do think that is a very stressful period of like a typical Singaporean's life, but I'm glad that you managed to kind of overcome that. I mean, a lot of people do. It's just that some people, I think, unfortunately, don't have the mental capacity. Nothing wrong with that, to get through sort of these sort of big events in their lives. So yeah, I think the high stress society, especially with exams and then job hunting and all these things, definitely kind of make us very, in a way, susceptible to mental illnesses in a sense, right? I think, in my opinion, I think there are a bunch of reasons, right? But something which I've been very kind of sort of invested in recently is this idea that there's this war being waged against our attention spans, right? So I think obviously you see it everywhere around the world among youth, that the typical youth attention span is declining by quite a lot. I think there are statistics out there. Do you know of any?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So like the attention span has been lowered like for all of us. Like, so they did this experiment in 2004, and the attention span, you guess how much was it?
How much?
In 2004.
How much was it?
Yeah.
Less than 50%? Is that a percent?
No, like just
like
the duration.
Duration. 2004. That's like before short form content came out.
Yeah. Before we were born.
Before we were born.
Yeah.
5 minutes below or
Not really
below?
5 minutes.
Longer
Yeah.
than that, or
It's a bit shorter than that.
what? That's insane, honestly.
Still better than today though.
Still better than today. I'm not sure if there's stats out there which kind of highlight this sort of issue other than the 2004 study.
Yes.
2 minutes.
Not 22 minutes. It's
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Bang.
Okay, so they did this study around 20 years later.
Yeah.
And you guess what's the attention span now?
Oh my goodness. 1 minute, probably less than a minute, right?
Yeah, it's
less.
It's
Oh my goodness. Maybe 50 seconds, or is it even less than that?
It's less than that.
No way.
I'll give you the answer.
What?
It's 40 seconds.
Bro, that's insane. That's why I'm quite passionate about discussing this. I feel like it doesn't get brought up very often. It's like a known fact among, I think, youth and in society in general, that the attention span in general is declining, but I feel like it doesn't get talked about very often. So I want to kind of take this time to dive into that. Yeah. So do you, like, as an individual, also experience like the sort of impacts, or rather do you experience like yourself getting distracted when you're trying to focus on like your work or productive tasks that might not be so dopamine inducing?
Yes, I do. Like, I think, let me just be honest about this. When I was like looking through the questions for the podcast, right, I was like one screen is to really like do the podcast thing.
Yeah.
And I have another screen which is like to watch like Champions League football because it happened yesterday. Yeah. I was watching this halfway and then I was like multitasking with like doing the podcast.
Okay.
Like, podcast questions. I was like looking through.
At least it's not like a Subway Surfer gameplay at the side.
Yeah, at least
that's another one. That's another thing. It's like we need to be stimulated at all times in order to get work done, and I don't think that is going to benefit us in the long run, especially at work or when doing things that are sort of less mundane. Because I think this decline in attention span, or rather short form content, social media as a whole, is kind of getting us glued and kind of making us reliant on, you know, that dopamine stimulation. And so because of that, we can't even focus on, like, let's say something which I wouldn't say is mundane, but something which isn't as dopamine inducing compared to like scrolling TikTok and all that. Yeah, so I do think it's a real problem. And something I always like to say, right, is that I've heard this I've heard this from a creator that I really look up to. If we are not able to get our hold of our attention span, I think in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, or even 30 years, right, then we're going to have a real problem when it comes to our productivity, right? Because I think attention as a whole is a very valuable commodity, especially now. It's very precious, and like everything is fighting for our attention these days. We'll get more into that. I briefly mentioned about short form content, but I think in general, a lot of things are fighting for our attention, so we don't have control of our attentions in the next couple of years, then we probably will kind of suffer in a sense, right? So I think it's important right now that we are intentional in what we let affect us, or rather what we dedicate our attention towards. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's true. We should dedicate our attention to like the important things in life. Like, let's say you're working on a project. That's important.
Yeah.
And like, I know a lot of like teenagers nowadays, or let's say youths,
yeah,
they love to scroll like Instagram wherever they go. So it's like, even it's like, let's say you're on a bus, you're riding, and when you don't have anything to like pass the time, you just scroll Instagram, not aimlessly. Then like, when it comes to like studying even, like,
yeah,
you know, like some of them, usually, you know, this Pomodoro thing where you study for 25 minutes and then like you break for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And instead see like, or personally, for my instance, I tried that method, but that 5 minutes, instead of it being like an actual 5-minute break to recharge, it's a 5-minute break to scroll on Instagram, which then becomes like a 5 minute break becomes a 10 minute break, a 10 minute break becomes a 20 minute break, and so on.
Actually, that's very interesting because recently I found myself doing that a lot. Like, I tell myself I'm just going to take a very short break to rest my eyes or to kind of rest my mind in general. And then end up scrolling on TikTok for what, 10 minutes or even more than that. And then after that, I find it so difficult to get back to what I was doing initially. I think it's a big problem. As to how we can solve it, I honestly don't have the answers. Do you have like any sort of advice?
Can solve it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did personally was that I first and foremost, I just don't study at my house. I go to a library and actually like do work there. Mainly there's one reason why is because like when you see everyone around you, usually there's a lot of students in the library, you feel pressured to like study and not like procrastinate and like scroll about and waste your time. You just feel like you are in pressure to study. And then second of all is like, you know, library have limited like sitting hours. Like you have to book a seat just to study. So like you just want to get the job done and not like waste any precious time if possible. Then like also like because the home environment for me is just way too comfortable. I just feel like I'm like literally an arms away from my arms length from my bed. Then like my table is right here.
Yeah.
So whenever I just like feel tired and so I'll just jump to my bed and then I cannot get out of it. It just feels like I cannot concentrate. So like that's what I do personally. I go to a different environment so that I can like get myself in like the mood, get myself in the space.
I think it's good to switch things up every once in a while, switch up the environment in which you're working at. But the problem I feel like for me, I don't know if it's just a personal issue. I find it very difficult to focus like when I'm outside, you know, in the library, because I feel like okay, maybe library is a bit different, but like when I'm in school, I'm trying to log in school, when I stay back to log in school, I get very distracted in a sense, because I feel like the people around me are sort of distractions in itself. I don't know. But like, I guess to each their own. It's kind of like whatever works best, but I guess those are some general advice which, you know, can help you lock in focus better. So yeah, getting back to the decline in attention span, right? I do think it's a very big issue. I wanted to make a video on this, I think, quite recently, but I didn't get down to it. Perhaps I got distracted. But yeah, I think it's something which we all need to work on collectively, because it's not going to go away anytime soon, this issue, because especially with the rise and advancement in AI, which kind of then gives way to AI short form content. I don't know if you've seen AI short form content of the AI slop.
Yeah, I see. It's all on Instagram I seen like a lot of the nonsense, which is like one of it is like life hacks, all those like, you know, those like characters will just start talking and giving you
yes,
life hacks.
yes, those.
So weird. And then like there's another one which has like, you know, I want to change gender. No, it's really weird. It's like, hey, I'm a BMW, I want to change to a Mercedes. Wait, it's actually really dumb, but like, I don't know, they just survive on the internet because, you know, it's kind of easy to make, and it's like, you know, it fits the topic now, like short form content and like dopamine rush.
Yeah, I think that's the issue which we're kind of facing. Like, because we are so addicted to getting the dopamine high, so many of these creators kind of feed into that. Whether it's right or not, I think they're doing it for sort of like views and all that. So they kind of feed into it. So the more we kind of engage with such content, the more they'll be compelled to make this sort of content. I think, and it's a lose-lose situation for everyone. Maybe a win for them to get the views. But for society or consumers at large, we kind of lose out because we end up being glued to our phones and addicted. So yeah, as I was saying, with the rise in AI content, this is not going to get any better. And I think social media as a whole, we can definitely dive into some of the impacts on social media as a whole in general. That's something I'm also really passionate about discussing. Social media, right? Interestingly, that day I did like a project where I had to research some of the common consumer habits among youth, right? And so obviously short form content is a big one, etc., etc. But something which I found, technically I know this already because I'm sort of quite involved in creator space, niche micro creator. I was looking into some platform research, right, as to what Instagram and TikTok prioritizes. TikTok obviously is built fundamentally on the FYP model. So basically, it prioritizes discoverability and all that rather than the number of followers you have. So I'll get into what that means for us consumers. Instagram, whereas used to be more follower base centric, but now I think it's shifted. It's kind of adopted the model which TikTok is primarily built on, discoverability. And obviously, from a business standpoint, it's a good thing, right? To kind of get the viewers hooked and get them to stay. But I think that is only going to do us a lot of harm, I feel, because the fact that, you know, a lot of these platforms prioritize discoverability now, it is to kind of get us hooked, you know, to keep on scrolling. Yeah, before TikTok, Instagram, I'm not sure if you were on Instagram back before, way before TikTok even launched, but the way in which the platform was programmed, it wasn't as addictive, right? Social media, I think back then was purely to connect with people, not so much to consume. But ever since TikTok came along, all the social media platforms are kind of optimizing discoverability, and that kind of eats into our attention spans.
Yeah, I think it does. Like back then, it was like Facebook. You know,
Yeah,
like my
correct.
grandfather's
Yeah.
time, it was like Facebook. Then like it became like Instagram. I mean, but they're under the same company now, Meta. Then like it became TikTok. Yeah, and there's also this thing called YouTube, which
Yeah.
was like way before like maybe Instagram and TikTok. That is mainly for like long form content,
Yeah.
which actually gave rise to a lot of amazing videos.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like the effort they took to make those videos are really, really insane. And I feel like ultimately, personally speaking, it's still better than watching a TikTok video.
I do think so as well. Because a lot of the TikTok videos don't exactly provide value. This is interesting. Because a lot of people go on TikTok to kind of get entertainment, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with watching entertainment-based content every once in a while, you know, when you're feeling sad or something to cheer you up. But I feel like the problem, right, with entertainment-based content is that obviously they don't add any sort of value other than the fact that, you know, they give you some sort of, but other than the fact that they're humorous, right? And so I don't know where I stand on this, but I feel like entertainment-based content isn't exactly very much value-centric on social media, I feel, especially with the rise in TikTok.
Yeah, I feel the same too. Nowadays, like, you know, the entertainment-based content is on TikTok, on every Instagram Reels and Shorts. All those, like, what I call it, very edited, like, stunts and, like, all those funny stunts and, like, what was it recently? Like, all the TikTok dancers, which
brain rot,
it's not
essentially.
really brain
Not
rot. The dancers is okay, but
Yeah.
the brain rot that really comes is all the, you know, 6-7 and yeah, all that like Gen Alpha slang and stuff.
Yeah.
And then like tung 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 sahur. I don't know who made that, but like that's so brain rot.
Yeah. Honestly, I think like brain rot content in general is sort of, a lot of people use it as a buzzword, you know, for fun and all that. But I think it anecdotally represents the direction which we are kind of going in, you know, like how we are kind of so, how sort of how we are so hooked to entertainment based content, and then it's going down this route of like content without meaning, you know, like brain rot doesn't have its meaning. So I feel like this just highlights the direction we are going towards as social media prioritizes such content. I don't think it's necessarily beneficial. Again, when it comes to our attention span, I think we can't leave it up to social media platforms or the algorithms to, you know, keep us in check, because ultimately, if they keep us in check, then who is going to use the platforms? So I think it's our responsibility as youth or as a society to really be intentional about the kind of content we consume, and not let brain rot or random content which doesn't add value into our life kind of affect us and steal our attention. Yeah, so that's basically my take on this whole decline in attention span. I will reiterate again, get a grip over your attention in the next couple of years. because it's going to be a real issue. I myself have kind of succumbed to a lot of doom scrolling recently.
Yeah, I also relate to
I've
that.
been very busy, and yet I find time to doom scroll. It's like, what am I doing? Like, I could use the little free time I have to read a book, but instead I'm doom scrolling. So I guess it's not like, I don't know, I guess it boils down to priorities. Speaking of reading a book, when was the last time you actually read a book?
Wait.
Like a book from cover page to the ending?
I think that was like this year. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we coverage to the ending. Not really this year. I think it was like last year or so. I forgot already, but like
What book? What is that about actually?
it was about, okay, the book is about like doctors and their stress levels, but
Mm.
it's not really related to today's topic. But still, okay, what it is basically is about a book that talks about how doctors in the UK are facing a lot of stress
Mm.
in their jobs, and why, and then yet they have to like treat people as well on top of facing their own personal issues.
Mm.
Okay.
That's nice. That's nice.
When I try to read the book, right, you know, it's a library book, so it's like I have like limited time to read
Yeah.
it. Maybe the pressure really helped, because like there were some days I was like reading like, you know, 20 pages, 30 pages, just to like finish it by the time the deadline ends.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to a book I buy from like, you know, Kinokuniya, Popular, that book can take me months to read because I just have no motivation to do it. Or when I actually do touch the book, I read 5 pages and it's like, oh, I think that's enough for today. That's like maybe a result of my short attention span. Like you just, I think youths today, right, they can't even like pick up a book, or some of them has never even actually
That's
read a book
right.
properly.
At least you have tried reading a book. I can't remember the last time I actually sat down to read a book. It's that bad. It's that bad. I think because when I was young, I didn't really enjoy reading also. So maybe that could possibly be a reason why I don't have the habit of reading. But I should probably get into reading. I've been telling myself that I want to get into reading, you know, over the last couple of years, but I never really gotten down to it. I think reading is actually a really good activity. I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but I'll share a bit more about that. I think reading, how I rationalize it, you know, as to why I should read, is not just that it's engaging or whatever. I think it's a way to kind of help you express your thoughts better, seeing how different authors kind of express their thoughts through words, through diction in a sense. That kind of motivates me to read so that I can express my thoughts better, because I'm quite big on being able to articulate yourself well. I think that's a very important skill. Another conversation for another day, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think reading is so much more helpful. So tying back to like content, you see, content in a sense only has like one dimension. It only provides entertainment. I'm generalizing, but entertainment based content only provides entertainment or humor. Whereas something like reading, something which is more sort of mundane, they provide you with like multiple benefits. And I think that is, yeah, something we should kind of pick up, should learn to do more of these sort of mundane activities. I mean, it's definitely not easier, especially with all the things competing for our attention spans and all that. So I want to go back to the topic now of social media, right? What are your thoughts on social media as a whole? It's a very big topic over the last 10 years or so, ever since the rise of Instagram, TikTok. What are your thoughts on social media? Do you think it's beneficial, or do you think it's like completely negative, or do you think it's a mix of both?
So what are the benefits of social media and what are the negatives? So I will start with the benefits first, then I'll move to like the negative, then we'll start weighing it. I'll just weigh it, because I feel like it's like not a one-sided thing. The thing about social media is that it's good because it allows you to connect with old friends and it allows you to make new friends. I think on the part of like making new friends, I think it's pretty obvious. Like you like follow a profile, then you just want to talk to them, and you can start like making friends through that. That's how I made personally. That's how I made a friend. I just comment on their stories, and then that's how I started talking to them.
Yeah.
Then after that, like it also works like for like dating as well. Like you can actually use Instagram as like a form of dating. Like I just like slide into your DMs, but like
Do you think that works well though?
I think it can work well.
It can work well.
It can work well depending on how well you are and how well the other person is willing to reciprocate. Because like some people, they just leave you on unread, then like the convo just goes nowhere. But it really depends. Like this one is like, I feel like it needs like both individuals to cooperate.
Yeah. I feel like about that, right? There's, I don't know, I have mixed opinions on that, because I feel like some people just slide in for fun and then they're not genuine about, you know, cultivating a long-term relationship. I think there's an upside to it, but there's also a downside. But I think yeah, we can talk about that later on. But you can go on with whatever you're saying. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, and on the part of making like reconnecting with old friends, yeah, that's how I do it. Like I have primary school friends which I don't know where they are now, but I just yeah, because of social media, I can like briefly get an idea of where they are now. And then like for some of them, like for personal experience, I also like connected with an old primary school friend through social media. Though I think that was on WhatsApp, but it was on social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just shows the power of like social media. Just a simple reach, saying hello, and then you can just literally talk to anybody, like even your old friends, and then they will start like connecting with you. It feels, I feel like when you do your Instagram, it's way better than just randomly doing on WhatsApp one day. Like Instagram, like, at least like there's like let's say there's a story, then I can simply just like write a message or something funny as a reply, rather than being on WhatsApp like just randomly texting hi.
Like rather
How are you
abrupt,
doing?
yeah.
It just
True.
feels like it's so random. Like at least like when I can reply to a story, it feels like there's a topic to start on.
True.
Then like other good parts about social media is like allow you to like really like promote like brands and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of advertisements which I personally don't like. I think you don't like too.
That's interesting because I actually wanted to talk about that also about certain social media campaigns which aren't exactly beneficial. It's just I don't know, there to kind of attract consumers, but then I don't know, there's some campaigns which I have a distaste for. But carry on with what you're saying. Sorry to cut you off again.
Yeah. It's good because like like there's like advertisements and campaigns. You can like for example for like there's like tuition center like Zenning Education Studio. They do their like advertisements on like Instagram, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's a good way to like get students in. And like there's also various companies who want to sell their products, and then they always get like those brand influencers to come in saying, yo, this product is good. I used it before and this is the results for me.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll be there.
Hopefully, maybe with this podcast. Yeah, but I think the thing is about influencers again, which will later lead us into another topic of like this. In a sense, influencers are just, I don't know. I feel like sometimes they're very inauthentic and stuff like that. Like the way they kind of a lot of the times, a lot of these product reviews which kind of are endorsed by influencers, sometimes I feel like it's just a bit gimmicky again. But I think in a general sense, yeah, I think it does work from that perspective, from like a business standpoint. What are some of like maybe the negatives? I think you touched on a lot of the positives already. What are some of like the negative aspects of social media, and then after that, I'll give my take on this because I have a lot to say again about this.
No, okay, so the first and most obvious one
Yeah.
is relevant to our discussion. It's the part where we have like addiction.
Yeah.
I think this is really true for addiction. Personally, I also went through a phase where like I was like addicted to social media. I personally spent like 1 hour on my bed scrolling. And then like after that 1 hour, I regretted it, but I couldn't buy the time back. That's like one of it. But then like I know that I'm probably not the only one going through it. There's like dozens or thousands of youths around the world all suffering from the same issue of like, oh, I just need to scroll for 5 minutes and then scroll for an hour. I think, yes, indeed. I think addiction can also be an issue when there's no regulation. Like for youth, like let's say maybe a 3 to 6 year old, if the parents just feed them a phone and then they just allow them to like scroll Instagram randomly, like, just aimlessly, the children will just have no control. So I feel like this is on like a parent's side as well, a parent's fault for like literally enabling their kids to become like iPad kids.
Yeah, I think that's a problem because a lot of parents they use the iPad or any digital device as sort of like a pacifier to kind of get them to, in a sense, for the lack of a better word, shut up and do that so that the parents themselves can focus on things which really matter. Whether that's good or not, I mean, I don't think that's good, and I don't endorse that. But I think sometimes, from a parent's perspective, it's probably like the easiest way to get them to kind of do their own thing, and then the parent can do their own thing as well. But I think that is another big problem, which I probably have talked about before. But Yeah.
Wait, a bit unrelated.
Yeah.
But I know like, but it's crazy, right? You know,
Yeah.
like the kids of today, right? They're primary 1 and they're already getting iPhone 17. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Because when I was P6, I got iPhone 4. And that was like back in 2017. So iPhone 4 was already like very old by then. It was like X already by then. But I only got iPhone 4 lah. So I mean, I'm happy with it though. At least like iPhone 4, I don't have like, I mean, I can't really use Instagram on it because like the iOS is so old. There is a lot of features on Instagram I even unlock. I can't even download it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just surprised like how do the parents just literally just pay for a new phone for a primary 1 kid? And don't they like know that there's like consequences as a result of that? I think they do, but I don't know. Do they like even take actions to stop it?
Exactly. I think you hear a lot of people saying this, like, primary 1 kids get an iPhone 17 these days, and then us back then, we didn't have devices, or we just had like a simple phone. What?
Back in our day.
Back in our day, we sound like unks. But I think it's actually true, because like, if I do see kids out there, with like the latest iPhone or something. And then another thing is like kids kind of saying the most random brain rotted phrases. That's another thing. And that kind of goes to show that, where did they learn that? From social media, obviously. So that goes to show that a lot of kids are already on social media at such a young age, which kind of proves your point, right?
Yeah.
I've seen kids saying 6, 7, I think like 4-year-old kids or something. And then that just goes to show that they already have access to social media at that age. And how that's going to work out in the long run, I don't know, for their development and stuff. I think the government, at least in Singapore, has some sort of preventive measures for that. They do a lot of, I think there have been articles written or policies written before to kind of control this. I don't know. I need to go look at the actual research, but from what I remember vaguely, yeah. So that's definitely one. Yeah,
They
correct.
do. So like now primary school and secondary school kids, they have to lock their phone somewhere. Then they only can receive it like at the end of class. It's good because like during recess, right? They don't want to encourage people to just like game for like the entire recess time, and that's like they don't want them to bond through gaming. They want them to bond through like normal means like talking and really like asking how's your day, like going through common like I quite like common experiences together rather than it being through games.
Yeah, that's the thing, because while social media as a whole has helped to kind of bridge communication, over reliance on social media or the digital as a major or primary form of communication, I don't think is beneficial, right? Because I think as kids, it's good to lay the foundation, have them socialize, and then talk to real people. Again, I think there are studies done showing how kids nowadays are more socially inept, like more socially reserved, and don't have the social skills to interact with one another. Whether that has a correlation to this increase in addiction to social media, or rather the kids getting on social media earlier, is another thing. But I mean, it's definitely the case. There have been studies done showing that youth nowadays are more socially inept. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also another thing, another issue of social media on the youth is like brainwashing. Like,
Okay.
how do I put it as brainwashing? So basically, those like news articles. There's a lot of news articles, and some of them can report like fake news.
Yeah.
So like, because the kids don't have that mentality to like discern like, what's real and what's fake.
Correct.
They will like take the fake news by accident if they believe it's real, because it can look so real that they won't even know like where to cross check their sources from. So they'll believe the fake news and they'll say something wrong about it online.
That definitely highlights like the downside of social media, like the brainwashing side.
Yeah.
I do think that that's a very big issue. As to how we can solve it, again, don't have the answers, but I think it's important for us to be aware of like what we consume. Once again, tying back to that, because there's so much information out there, it's so hard to discern like what's true, what's false. And then when something is, I feel like it's not so straightforward nowadays, because there are some things which aren't exactly true, but at the same time aren't exactly fake news. They kind of like manipulate it to make it more sensationalized. And again, that's like, it can be kind of counted as false information again. So I think that is a very major problem of social media content as a whole. Yeah. So I think how I would put this, right, is not that social media in itself is it's like a problem in itself. Because I think social media at the end of the day, like you mentioned, has its benefits and acts like a tool more so to help us communicate, connect with people around the world. So if you see it as purely a tool, I think it definitely has a multitude of benefits. I think the negative part comes more so when we decide to consume content which isn't exactly moving us forward, brain rotted content, etc., etc. I think it's more so the content in which social media often pushes to us, which is negative rather than social media itself. That's kind of my take. So a lot of the times, I think when people are talking about the negatives, they're talking about the content or the misuse of social media rather than social media as a tool. If you get what I'm saying, social media as a tool, I don't think it's exactly negative, right?
Yeah, it's
But
not negative.
it's just the content which a lot of us spend our time engaging with or consuming is what makes it negative. And I can go on a lot on a tangent about this whole thing about social media content being damaging to us, especially content which doesn't propel us forward. And I think you brought up a really good point about about misinformation.
Yeah, news.
Yeah, news such a big thing. I've been, I think, looking into that recently, like how social media kind of makes us think a certain way, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, I think it's a big issue which we've all probably experienced for ourselves. Then the other thing I want to kind of get into, now that we're on the topic of the downsides of social media, right, is this endless cycle of comparison which we often find ourselves stuck in. I don't know whether you've experienced that for yourself, because I feel like you're someone who doesn't really, I don't know, I mean, based on my observations, you can speak for yourself. You don't really compare yourself to like influencers. You're not really like sort of all the only thing which you really kind of consume or have a vested interest in is like more so sports, right? Rather than like celebrity culture and all that. But I think celebrity culture, social media in general, has kind of led to a lot of comparison, and then how that has manifested in our lives is another problem which we'll get into shortly. What are your thoughts on that? Have you kind of found yourself comparing yourself to others on social media, whether it be your friends or whatever? Yeah.
I think it's not really celebrities because
Yeah.
I feel like celebrities are just way too far fetched for me.
Ah.
I am not at their level.
Yeah.
But I think it's more on friends. I think celebrities personally might feel a bit too far fetched for everyone. I think it's more of their friends that when they are comparing about. Because what we see is that like their friends always like post moments of them like having a good time or like something good that happens. But that's like 99% of the time. Only like 1% of the time they just put the bad thing that happened to them and like they don't really show what truly is going on in their lives. So like there could be like one moment where they're like showing a picture of me clubbing, like of them clubbing. Then I see and it's like, oh, I want to be a clubber too. So I did thought about that. I did want to go clubbing because my friends were going clubbing, and I just like FOMO. Yeah, FOMO culture. So
That's another big issue which kind of pushes us to do things which we might not exactly want, but because we want to be seen by our friends as cool, or because we want to fit in, we do it. Another very big issue. But I think back to what you were saying, yeah, a lot of us compare ourselves, I think, more so to friends. I mean, obviously some people compare themselves to celebrities. It's a very insane phenomenon to me now that we have access to almost everyone's lives, even celebrities. Back then probably didn't even know what celebrities were doing other than when they appeared in like movies or those paparazzi films. But now we're having access to like their lives, their day in, day out. But then again, that comes with comparison. Again, like what you mentioned, I think a lot of people only post their glamorous parts of their life on social media. And so that kind of, yeah, gives us this false impression of like, oh, their lives are better than ours. I talked about this before. And that just leads us into this very unhealthy pattern of comparing ourselves to others. Interestingly though, I think comparison in a sense, right, is a catalyst for us to do better, right? Like based on, we use our friends' lives or rather what they're doing as benchmarks for ourselves. But I think what social media has done is kind of inflated that disproportionately, and then as a result we compare ourselves to them even when we don't have to. Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't know if you experienced it too, but I mean, I definitely have compared my lives to like my friends' lives when, let's say, when they travel and all that, because I'm a big proponent of travel. I like to travel a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do too.
yes, and oh yeah, one more thing I want to
Yeah.
say is like like the followers, right? We quantify our like so-called happiness based on the number of
Yeah.
followers, number of likes, and number of Instagram
Mm.
views, story views that we get. It's
Yeah.
like that number, like it seems very superficial
Yeah.
on the surface, but we take it so personally. It's like, I just want to compare. Oh, my friend has like 800 followers. I only have 300, for instance. Then I just like, oh, I feel so inferior. I feel less popular compared to my friend. Then like when it comes to number of likes, I just sometimes be like, oh, why didn't this post get that lot of likes? Why didn't this post get like, the as many likes as my friend who has less followers,
Yeah.
for instance? Then I was like one moment in time, right? I also
Yeah.
did like search up when is the best time to post, because like apparently there is apparently like a website
Yeah.
says like that have this answers around this time to this time. But then the fact that I had to go and check that question means
Yeah.
that I was already comparing already.
Yeah, I think those are for like influencers. The fact that you want an influencer and yet you went to look at those stats,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely say something. But yeah, I do think that you brought up a really good point about how it has bred, so comparison in itself has led to other issues. In a sense, self-doubt. I guess you can consider that self-doubt, right? And what and how we kind of view success, right? I mean, success nowadays it's always been determined by quantitative factors, so like wealth and followers, fame and all that. I do think that the narrative is sort of changing, but there's much we can do, I feel like, to cultivate or rather broaden the scope of what it means to be successful. I think Singapore is doing quite a bit in that direction. What do you think of it? Like, what do you think constitutes success, or how do you think success should be defined? Very loaded question, so take your time to answer.
I think this question, right,
Yeah.
personally, sorry. I think this question personally, you cannot like ask like one person and like really like agree with him fully,
Yeah.
because this answer is so subjective. It's so
Yeah.
arbitrary that you need to ask a few people to actually get a brief idea. And
Exactly.
even you will not agree with it.
Yeah.
Like, you have your own definition of it.
Yeah.
But then like the general consensus, like personally, the general consensus is like, we call it the Singapore dream lah. It's like something like good marriage, have kids. Okay, maybe have kids is not really a
Yeah.
thing. Have a stable job, have a stable income. Yeah, something along the lines of that lah. Then get a good like degree, good study. Yeah, it's a lot of things lah. I'm not really that familiar in the Singapore
Yeah.
dream, but usually like I think that was always the norm from the start. From the start, it was always like get a good income, get a good house, get a good family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this might not be true to everyone because like some people may want to write their own path. For instance, like the job part, right? Get a good job. What is it a good what is defined as a good job
Yeah.
doesn't apply for you and me both the same. Like for example, like let's say you want to be a content creator, but some people feel like they don't want to step into fame and really like be a content creator. They feel like they don't want to like show themselves on camera. So that's why like they say, okay, I'm not gonna take the path of being a content creator, and then like instead they decide to go like a very traditional job of like, let's say, office worker, just for instance. Yeah, and also like in Asian societies, right?
Yeah.
There's this thing called like, if you are not doctor, lawyer, or engineer, you are not successful. Yeah, it's common in Asian societies. Like all their children, all the parents want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, or engineers. It's like the three careers which are like so-called the most successful because they so-called give you the most money.
I do like your answer. I do think that that's a very good way to put it. I do think that success isn't exactly confined to like, I guess in a sense, the traditional boundaries of like money and all that. I do think it's very subjective, person to person. And I like that you gave the answer, and I definitely will ask this question to other people who come onto the podcast, because I want to explore culture and all that. I'll pose this question to a bunch of people because I like the point you brought up. Like, when you ask this question to like a bunch of people, all of them will have like distinctively different responses.
Yeah, I also think so because like I can also like personally go and ask like like my
Yeah.
friendly like what do I call it? Mama shop owner.
Yeah.
Maybe he's very happy already. I asked him, do you think you're very happy, uncle? Then he's like, yeah, very happy. My mama shop is like all it is. My family is all in this mama shop. I can personally like feel very happy in the mama shop. Although the mama shop I don't really make a lot of money, he can
Yeah.
feel very happy. That's like considered success to him.
Mm.
Like I think some people can don't have a lot and they can feel successful, and then we have some people that can have a lot on them
And
but
yet not
still
feel
don't feel
successful. Yeah.
successful.
Yeah, I want to kind of talk about that because, like, interestingly, I know a lot of people, some on both ends of the spectrum. Some people who are very ambitious, they're always chasing the next big thing. I mean, I don't exactly agree with that because, like, at what point do you say that you're successful, after chasing all these things? Like, at what point is it enough? And I think that's a discussion I want to have with some of those friends.
You just keep pushing the goalposts of success.
Yeah, it's like you keep pushing the goalposts until like what point? Until what point you're like when you're extremely burnt out, and then at that point, are you able to enjoy the fruits which you have produced along the way? It's like that's my question I have to a lot of those people. Again, like I said, success is largely different for everyone, but I kind of want to explore this idea that success may not exactly be limited to just acquiring fame or financial gain, because I feel like a lot of us have been programmed to think that way. I know a lot of people who think that way and are just striving to be the best in terms of future careers and all that. Yeah, so I like the point you brought up there. So what's like briefly, what's like your definition, or rather, what is success to you personally? Like,
Why is to me
yeah,
personally? I think mine will be a bit more traditional,
mm,
but then it's like with a like
yeah,
modern twist on it. I just want to be like happy in life, happy in whatever I do. I just want to get a good job, which is like I won't say very high paying lah, because
mm.
nowadays the job market is bad, but no, that's not the point. Like put it like the income is just stable, and
Yeah.
but I'm just very happy in the job.
Okay.
And like I get married, have a good family, and then I stay like I don't have to stay like very fancy place. I can just stay in like maybe a very modest house or modest like HDB flat, and I will still be happy because like I think personally speaking, right, for me, right, for me speaking, if I'm very used to that environment, even if it's not good, my mindset will change over time.
Oh.
It's like when you start, you feel like the negatives all power against you, and you feel like you can't do it. But then as the time goes by, you feel like you start to enjoy it, and then you think that you have already settled into what is like your new normal.
I actually like that. I like that mindset. I think it's less. Uh, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with like not being extremely ambitious. I think it's a good thing. Not many people nowadays, like we talked about social media earlier, and then we kind of got to this point. I think social media, and because we have access to like what our friends are doing, I think so many of us want to be like them. And what is like them is like this idea of like accumulating wealth and all that, right? So I think it's good to like hear from you on your kind of take on this, on like what it means to be successful, and and it doesn't exactly, I mean, there's nothing wrong with not exactly aligning with like the mainstream of narrative of accumulating wealth. I think it's very refreshing to hear. Yeah, I think for myself too, I mean, I value what I do a lot. Like, I want to be able to enjoy it. I mean, obviously a job is a job. Work-life balance sometimes is non-existent, but generally I want to be able to enjoy what I do and not overwork myself. Been thinking about this a lot because like going to graduate soon. But yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what do I want to do in the future? Is it to just get a stable job and then survive and have time for other things, or like overwork myself? I think the former definitely appeals to me more. Yeah, because I don't think I can deal with like large amounts of stress and all that. I'm not very
Good at
good at
stress.
handling stress. Yeah, so I do think that I have a very similar take as you. Just being able to get by. I think there's a very stark difference between like what you said, financial security, having security, and abundance, right? I mean, it's okay to strive to be decent and then have some sort of security. But I do think that sometimes when you go overboard and then you want to strive for like accumulating large amounts of wealth, I do think sometimes that can be a bit detrimental in the long run to your health, mental health, and all that, and take a toll. But I mean, to each their own. But I just want to share this sort of perspective also, because I know a lot of people our age, I know a lot of people our age who are trying to climb that ladder and then accumulate wealth and what it means to be successful in the eyes of regular people.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's also the case. Like, I think it's not just social media. Okay, so
yeah,
I'll put it this way: the comparison thing has already been like,
correct.
it's not just limited to social media. It's
Yeah.
like it runs in families. Okay, so
Yeah.
like, you know, like there's this thing like in Asian cultures where like your mother will just compare like you to like a child of another mother, which is her friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I don't know whatever the name is. It's like, my child is a A-level scholar, PSLE scholar. He go RI. He is what soccer captain. He etc etc. You just start comparing the
Yeah.
children to the his like her children
Yeah.
to like someone else's children.
Correct.
It's like a comparison culture that's already been like
Yeah.
rooted in society. It's not really like related to social media, but social media just exacerbates it lah. So that's why I feel like the perception of success right on that child is like very very like warped in a way. Like I mean, personally, I can say I want to feel happy and all this, right?
Yeah.
But that's because on my upbringing, right, I think there wasn't really a lot of expectations piled onto me lah. But I know that in many other families, like some children have like a lot of expectations piled onto them. So that's why like that like shapes their thinking as they grow older, thinking that they need to go and like achieve this, that, and everything in order to like really, really find what success is. And because of that, when they don't achieve it, right, they'll just beat themselves up. And then that's what leads to them like feeling like a lot of like mental issues, mental health issues, because they feel like they have not achieved enough. But in reality, they have already achieved more than like maybe someone else.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I think it's good that this narrative is changing. I think that we should definitely try to explore what it means to be successful, like other metrics rather than just the traditional ones, called the quantitative ones. So yeah, I like the direction we're going in as a whole, but I think a lot more definitely needs to be done. Yeah, that was a pretty good discussion on that. So I think we can also dive into some of the other negative aspects, the smaller ones of like what social media has done. Maybe like unrealistic standards in relationships. I think that's a big one. It came to my mind. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think dating through unrealistic relationships, unrealistic standards in relationships. Yeah, I think it does provide that form of like so-called insecurity.
Yeah.
And also like I'll just give an example. Like there's like, let's say this couple always like to post their life.
Yeah.
But then like they show them the world that they are happy
Yeah.
and they want to be together. But then deep down they are not happy and they just don't want to be together. So it's like it's unfortunate life. I think for those people they run through it a bit harder compared to like normal people who just live their life in private, because when it comes to like private life, if it's under scrutiny, it's going to pile some pressure onto them, and it can be detrimental to the relationship. But maybe that's like a bit far-fetched. But the thing that is like a bit more closer to home is like, or closer to the point, will be like, yeah, I think like, let's say when you're talking to like someone and you want to like date someone through social media, you will find like that girl, or that, for me it's that girl lah.
Yeah.
For the girls will be that boy is perfect on just because he looks cute on Instagram, he looks cool on Instagram, he's going out, he has a lot of friends, and he's like he's literally everything that you want in a partner.
Yeah.
But then like he could also be like some guy who deep down is not good as well, not good for you. And rather than like you trying to, normally traditionally when it comes to dating, is like you meet them through somewhere.
Yeah, correct.
And that you get closer to them through dating, going on dates, and then like really talking to them. Then after that, like eventually becomes a relationship. Then I think you can either go marriage or break up, but hopefully you went to marriage.
Yeah.
But then like for the social media, the path is now like you meet through Instagram, or actually think of it, social media technically dating app also considered.
Actually, yeah, I would say dating apps are actually social media platforms as well. Yeah.
Dating apps. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you meet through dating apps. Then it's like skipping away like the first step of like getting to know each other. It's like jumping straight into testing the waters.
Yeah.
Because I had this is discussion with a friend before,
Yeah.
like, and they brought a very good point. Is like dating apps really force you to like go and test the waters like the moment you start like saying yes, like you have to go and test the waters.
Yeah.
At most your conversation is just through text and you just
Yeah.
scroll, and scroll. Which is also another big problem because like at least when you talk to a person like normally you get to like understand his problems before you commit to that relationship. Like you get to understand, oh, this person is not good at this. It's okay, how can I help? Or
Yeah.
this is not good for me. So you do not like step into that boundary that
Yeah.
is like are quite like the boundary of no return are quite.
Yeah, so essentially you end up like getting yourself into something which is not ideal, and then you end up breaking up from there, and then waste a lot of time. I think that's how it is from my perspective. I do definitely agree with you. I think dating apps are very risky in general. The people you meet on there may not be genuine about wanting a relationship. I mentioned catfishing and all that. Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because in the past, when you meet people organically, I don't know whether you can count the people you meet on dating apps, organic matches or whatever. But essentially, I think back then when you met people through events, through school and all that, I think you, at least have had some sort of experience with them for the most part, and then so you know what yourself, what you know what you're getting yourself into. Whereas like with dating apps is almost like a gamble in a sense, like you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I think that's one of the main problems with dating apps. And then another thing is, right, and then when you get with someone who isn't sort of your ideal type, your expectations get like ruined, your expectations get crushed, right?
Yeah.
And then so it gives you this perception that, oh, the dating scene is like this messed up and all that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I've seen a lot of videos on social media talking about like how bad the dating scene is, like how certain, whichever gender, like male, female, doesn't live up to the expectations, or they only do the bare minimum and all that. I feel like a lot of that, I mean, obviously it's a problem, but I feel like a lot of that boils down to like expectations, like through social media. Social media has raised the bar for a lot of things. I'm not saying that it's bad to sort of have expectations. I think it's good to know what you want. But I feel like social media has definitely raised the bar. And so a lot of things which, back then were not exactly things which people look for in a partner now becomes like deal breakers. And then in that sense, it's like a bit detrimental, because again, there's no perfect person, right? I'm getting a bit sidetracked, but this is something I want to dive into. Like, there's no such thing as like a perfect person, right? Everyone has their own flaws. It's just whether you're willing to deal with it and live with it, and then kind of model the change you want to see.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very big on that. And it's like, with dating apps, essentially, in a sense, you are kind of feeding into that perception, because a lot of people on dating apps, to be fair, some of them are not in it for the right reason. Then it crushes your perception of the dating scene, and then it just feeds into this idea that, oh, the dating scene is bad. If that kind of makes sense, yeah.
It's quite shallow. Yeah, really, the dating apps I feel is very shallow. So personally, I didn't like use it.
Yeah.
I just only like scroll once to really see what
Yeah.
it was like. I just for the fun, and because my friends were like scrolling for fun.
Yeah.
But then when I really went through the profiles, but no offense, I really found that a lot of the things that I saw is like not the types which I want, you know, like, and that could lead me to also another like point they try to bring, which is like it's very shallow, because like you just go by looks, and then you just go by like a few statistics, a few like a few things like what's my age, where I live,
Which could be made up.
do I smoke, do I whatever. Yeah, it could be made up, number one, and number two is like it's very shallow. It's just like, oh, do I fit this category? It's just like, oh, fit this. It's like a checklist that I need to fit this category. If you don't fit one of my categories, bye, you're sorted out.
Exactly, yeah. That's the sense of like where I feel like dating apps can never replace like traditional, like meeting people in real life. I mean, I've never tried it before. I thought of trying it before for the fun once again, but like, is it worth my time? Is another thing. Like,
I feel like
no, right? I mean, depends. If you're looking for just a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship, then maybe. But that is again not a healthy mindset to have. I think for the most part, I mean, obviously there have been probably marriages formed through dating apps, but again, it's a small percentage again. So I think that's something which I don't really like about dating apps. I think social media in general. So dating on social media in general is
I just tell
yeah.
myself like the only time that I resort to it is legit if I have no other options, no other avenues to touch. But
Yeah.
even so, I try my best not to touch it. I feel like personally, I just don't like the
Yeah.
thought of it. I mean, for those people who actually did manage to find their partners on social media and got married with it, good for them.
Yeah.
Because I think also it took some effort on their part as well,
Yeah.
not just on the social media part. So it's really like also on the individual as
Yeah,
well.
correct.
I think likewise for relationships and stuff, it's really on the individuals whether you're willing to compromise and stuff. It's not really just the social media part of it, but it's just that I personally feel that like social media, Tinder, Hinge is all a very like bad way to start a relationship. How the journey goes is way more important, but like to start, I feel like traditional dating is still a lot better.
Yeah, that's what I agree with that too. I think it's important to get your footing right.
Yeah.
Like like I said, going into like a date which you have met through a dating app probably isn't the wisest decision to make. The thing is like you brought up a good point. I think a lot of the people on there are desperate themselves. That's why they're on there. Then that's why they may not exactly live up to particular expectations.
Desperate. When you're desperate, you just feel like you want to be in it, but you never really consider like whether it's the one for you. It's like you just want to go in there just for the sake of going in there.
Correct. I think a lot of people are like that nowadays.
Yeah,
Again, we can tie this back to social media, like how we see many people on relationships on social media, whether it be our friends or whatever. Then we feel pressured to get into it. I mean, nothing wrong with getting into relationships, but if you are doing it just to fit in or doing it for the sake of it, then it's a problem right over there, because if you're not genuine, the likelihood of the relationship kind of working out in the long run is lower, right? Because if you're not genuine, then you probably inevitably won't put in so much effort, and then that will kind of lead to things going downhill.
It'll come back to bite you eventually.
Correct. Yeah, essentially that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that's I think probably one of the main downsides of dating on social media, or how social media has kind of in a sense ruin our perceptions of relationships. Like dating apps, I think in itself, like I mentioned, have sort of kind of fed into the mindset that the dating scene is bad and all that, and there's like no genuine people out there, when maybe you just haven't like met the right one, as cliche as that sounds. Yeah, I think that's about it for this topic. Is there anything else which, or rather, are there any other negatives of like social media consequences?
Okay, I was saying just now about misinformation.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I think like nowadays the youths are all like radicalized on like social media, and it could lead to very, very severe consequences as well. Like not just like you spread misinformation amongst others, and maybe potentially you could get everyone else around you in trouble.
That's why I think with social media, I think it all comes down to how we consume again, right? Because some of this content which gets sort of people radicalized in a way. I think a lot of the content, like some of these content creators who are just trying to help, those like, I mean, to name a few, like Andrew Tate or that, they're probably just trying to help people, right? But because we misinterpret it, then we become sort of radicalized, and then that's a very big issue, which I think a lot of youth are facing nowadays, and it's been talked about, I think, all in the newspapers and all that. I think that's the thing. A lot of these sort of self-help content, I don't think they start off. A lot of the intentions of these creators are not exactly bad, but we interpret it the wrong way again. But that is, I think, another conversation. That is another very big issue which I will probably get into in this series maybe eventually. But yeah, that's essentially, I think, sort of we covered most of the negatives of social media as well as the positive. I mean, again, I don't want to sort of demonize social media as a whole. I think it's a very powerful tool for creators. I mean, content creation is a very big industry right now.
Yeah.
And without social media, these jobs, these roles, these people wouldn't have existed. They wouldn't even be able to make a living in this day and age. So I think I will say that there are benefits to social media if used correctly. If used like as a tool rather than, you know, something which we are overly reliant on. So it all ties back to like what I mentioned in the beginning, is it really matters how intentional are we with consuming content on social media and how we use it. Because at the end of the day, I think these major platforms are not going to, unfortunately, prioritize us, because in fact, if they prioritize us, like I said, they won't have any business. They feed on our short attention spans and all that. But I think that's about it. We covered quite a bit today.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on, and yeah, I'm glad to have you as my first guest. I think you shared a lot of useful insights. I'm glad that we also took this opportunity to have like a chat. We haven't actually like spoken one-on-one in, I think, in quite a while.
Yeah.
We normally bond over like activities.
Activities,
To go to
yeah.
the gym.
But
Funnily enough, I saw this reel yesterday, right? It talked about how male friendships are often centered around a particular activity or like a hobby, a sport or something.
yeah, that's
And we don't actually get to talk a lot. So I'm glad that this in itself was an opportunity for us to kind of chat and listen to each other's perspectives, and hopefully perspectives shared in this episode will be able to help others. Glad to have you on. I might get you on for another episode.
it's true. I'm also glad to have you
Yeah,
as
we
a
can talk
host.
about a lot of other things.
Thank you
with
for
a lot
being
of
on for
things.
my first
Yeah.
podcast. I know it isn't perfect, you know.
Yeah.
It goes back to the point just we were talking about. We
Yeah.
must make like internet makes it everything perfect and stuff. Like even like personally, right, you know, I'm particular like camera angle, the way I'm speaking. Yeah, it goes back to the point of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. We can learn from this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to start this and not overthink, because something I've been trying to do is not sort of overthink too much. Like, you know, your first product, you know, in business or whatever it is always going to be bad.
Yeah.
In a sense, looking back, in retrospect, right? It's going to be bad. So why not just start it and then try to refine it and improve along the way? So that's what I'm going to do with this. And yeah, but I think for the most part, we did pretty well. We managed to cover what we wanted to cover, and we managed to kind of speak off the cuff without the script.
Yeah,
I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did that.
I think it's better that way because it makes the perspectives more natural rather than make it feel scripted.
Correct.
I only use like the scripting part for like maybe the research part, but
Yeah.
and then other than that, I think if you speak naturally, it makes it more fun, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we actually had a really in-depth, very interesting conversation today, which in itself is a conversation. So yeah, guys, look, stay tuned for more. If you have any guests who you might want to see, comment down below. I'll try to get them. I have a bunch of people who want to invite. I have a lot of interesting quote unquote people who will fit this sort of theme. So yeah, stay tuned for those episodes. Any last words before we end this?
Thank you, Nicholas, for inviting me on. It's great to have him as the first guest and really
host.
Host, not guest. Am I?
Yeah.
We both become like
we both become co-hosts.
Co-hosts. Yeah. Anyway, it's okay because like it's my first time doing this podcasting thing, which I personally feel like quite interested in doing as well. So yeah, I'm glad that he gave me the opportunity to like try this out and really like have a good like session, a good experience.
Yeah. You're planning to start creating your own content too, right? You mentioned or something.
Yeah.
For fun, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, but I haven't really thought about what it is. So I guess this podcast can like give me a brief idea of what my content can be like in the future.
Maybe you can start a podcast and then I guess on there or something. Yeah, guys, that's about it. Thanks for the conversation once again.
Thank you very much, Nicholas.
We will see you in the next episode.